Welcome to Late Night Riders, Episode 8. I'm your host, Kristen Foles, filling in for my daughter, Gretchen. And my other daughter's here with me today on the podcast. We had 3 generations. We had my mom, Debbie, and you, Ida, are home from college. It was so nice to have you here. Can you tell us what we talked about today?
Yeah, so today we talked about the maintenance of your horse farm after the winter months. And as spring comes, we recommend walking around your property, looking out for possible damage during the winter months. My grandma Baca, that's what I call her. She gave us some really good reminders of how to upkeep your barn during these spring months.
That's right. And she has really good tips and tricks, so it's a really good episode to listen to. She wanted to tell a story about me that's really funny, and I think we could name this one in Canter Banter is where we were at that point in the episode. I think we could name this one Wardrobe Malfunctions, and I don't say it right. Say it, Ida.
Wardrobe.
And Safe Horses. So be sure to listen to the end. It's pretty funny, and we thank you for listening. Enjoy. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hey, Kristen, Ida.
We've got spring fever. Spring's on our mind.
Spring fever. It's starting to thaw.
Yep. So
Weather's getting warmer. A little bit.
A little bit.
So
my dogs are running out, barking. They're barking at something, so I'm thinking bunnies, skunks, all those good things that come in the spring.
More sunshine.
Yeah.
the birds are starting to sing. It's that time again, so we know spring's around the corner.
Yeah.
Yep.
So with spring around the corner, what I usually like to talk about to our customers and people is that it's a good time to go out and check your fences and see what's happened through the
winter months.
Exactly. And some people I know will check their fences regularly. Some people check their fences weekly. Other people don't do it weekly. So that's why I think it's good to talk about, you should go out and check it if you haven't and see what happened over the winter time. Because if you think about it, the frost and the thaw,
And I would say, too, we've had a lot of strong winds this winter.
Yes.
So after each wind,
lot of
you have
branches.
to go out and check the fence regardless over the winter. But this is just a really good spring kind of checklist of the things that we do check on.
I did have a lot of branches that came down and hit my fence. And I had to pull a lot of branches off of the fence this year. So it's good to see, go back and check everything after that. So the one thing that I've heard about or talked about is that you can walk your fence lines if you want to, your horse's fence lines, and see how they look. Or if you want to, you can kind of kill 2 birds at one time, with one stone, and get on your horse and ride, because when you're up higher, you can see a lot more looking down over something than you can when you're just walking along beside it. So if you want to, you could go out and start to kind of assess the fencing, see if you see anything that starts to look like there's any kind of a problem that's starting, and then go back again when you're walking and maybe take some notes or tie something on your fence to remind you, because you'll forget about it.
So what would you
You'll
take
forget.
out with you for this to tie on your fence?
So one thing that I think is helpful is that if I am either walking or have the luxury of taking like a gator, Kubota, whatever the case may be, I like to take a pad and pencil, and I also like to take something to mark. I have a lot of twine left in the barn, so I do take twine sometimes and a pair of scissors so that I can mark with twine and tie it. I know it sounds kind of funny, but it won't be up there very long, and then I can see it from a distance. Our twine is like a bright orange.
From hay bales.
Yep, and you can see it, and there's a lot of it. So that's one thing you could do. If you have string, anything that you have that you think you'd want to mark with. I mean, if somebody is worried about a horse with their twine or whatever, a piece of tape. You could use a piece of heat tape, anything like that to mark it. But the thing that you want to do is make sure that you walk along and look for anything protruding, like protruding nails, depending upon which type of fencing you have, any rails that look broken or appear to be not functioning properly. I think a big thing is too is that when you walk along your fence line, don't forget about your posts, because sometimes posts can crack at the base of the post and you don't realize that it's actually cracked until you go up and wiggle it with your hands. And sometimes right at the ground line it can crack or be cracked or broken. So be sure you check things like that.
So can we break it down for the listeners then? Why don't we start with maybe like electric fences, like something we can do? I mean, can you do electric fences all in one bulk, or do you think they need to be separate? We've got rope and we've got tape. What would be the things that you would check for those?
Oh, I think that if you don't have some kind of a something that shows like an alert on your fence of some sort, something that shows if your fence is working properly, then have a fence tester. I mean, there's nothing worse than going around and not knowing if your fence is not working. You always want to keep your fence on at all times. You definitely don't want to touch it because it's not fun, especially when it's wet and damp. You really know it. So have a fence tester. Doesn't matter what kind of electric fence it is, just be sure you go around and test each fencing. If you do have some kind of a tape or a rope fence of some sort, you just want to be sure that that tape and rope is, any hand tension fence is kept taut. You never want to have a loose fence of any sort. So just be sure that the tension is on. If it's a hand tension fence, be sure you put the tension back on it again. That's so important with your horses. And then check it to make sure that the electric is on. Make sure your insulators are working properly and not broken.
So I'm assuming that's what the pen and paper is for, to say I need so many insulators or
anything you need. You know,
Okay.
if you're like, I have broken insulator here, and you start to do a little tick mark or whatever, and you keep track of it. Anything you want to make a note of. I need more of this. You know, I need more of hardware. Which section of fence or whatever you need to maybe you need to make a splice. I don't like to even talk about that, but maybe there's a splice that's needed. Maybe some kind of a limb or a big branch or something did fall on it, and it's not working properly in that section. So you can mark it down so that you don't forget. Why do it twice? Why go out there? I mean, we just want to do it once, and the weather's still kind of here. It's still chilly, really chilly.
Yeah.
So if you go out and take the time to do it, you've got it. You know, you've got it written down. If you leave it sit for a few days, you're not going to forget.
Right.
So this is the thing that we've done as a family. You know, we'll go out after dinner or something, walk the fence line, because it feels good to get out. We're going to have
We
daylight
take family
saving.
walks.
Daylight saving time is soon.
March 10th.
And
Woohoo.
I know, and we
Yeah.
want to get out.
We're all
So
excited.
this is one of the things that you girls, we've done with you girls when we were little. You know, walk the fence lines, make sure that they're working properly, and it's fun for the kids. It's fun for the family, and it gives you an activity to do during this time of the year too.
It does.
Right.
And you can take your little ones out with you too, you know, or you can get on and ride your horse and walk around that fence line and take a look, you know. Just make sure though that all of your rails, if you do have like board fencing, you know, check it for any nails, check it for any broken boards. Make sure that as tough as it is, some people do have split rail. Make sure your split rail's, you know, in good shape, and definitely think about putting up electric with fences that are board or split rail, so your horses don't lean on that fence and you get more use out of it. I just wrote an article that'll be coming out shortly on, you know, the dangers of improper fencing. You know, you want to be sure that your horse's fence is secure, and do the best you can to make it secure, because if a horse gets loose, you know, heaven forbid, we don't want a horse to get loose. There are too many things that can happen. One time I actually even had a person who told me about that their horses were being boarded at a home. The horses got out of the fence. Unfortunately, I mean, the neighbor was trying to help, went to go get the horse, and the horse either kicked or stepped on the person's foot or whatever. It was, you know, a person that didn't know anything about horses. So, you know, again, there was injury to the person, and that was not a good thing. So we have to be aware of the fact that it's not just our horses that could get injured. It's other people maybe trying to help the situation or whatever. So we want the best fencing that we can.
So it's so important to, you know, this is the importance of it. This is why we're talking about it. If we go back to the breakdown, we talked about electric and what we might need, the splicing, the, different parts and pieces that we might need. If we move on to the flex rail, then the flex systems, what would you need to do for those?
Well, I think what you'd want to look at is just be sure that it's the flex rail is a pretty low maintenance fence system. So just look for anything that doesn't look like the way that you originally installed it. Brackets usually seem to stay in pretty tight because we use ring shank nails, and they hold those brackets so tight onto the fence. In fact, sometimes we can't even remove the brackets without using like a saw of some sort, to cut the nails to get the bracket off. But just make sure that your fencing is in good shape. It should never be loose to begin with, because of the fact that flex fence is not a hand tension fencing, but rather a tension fence system. Once you put the tension onto that fence system, you should never have to touch it again. If you have big branches or limbs that have fallen onto your flex fence, remove those branches as soon as you can and see how your fence springs back up. Most often, if it's not too big of a branch, I mean, we can have some pretty good sized branches, right? I mean, the break strength per rail is huge. So if pull a branch off and it looks like there's something going on with that rail, just look at it, assess whatever you need to do with it. If something would need to be done, like a splice, make sure that you take care of that splice and get it done, or just make sure that if the fence is a little loose, maybe you have to put a little tension on it. I would say this though, with all, it doesn't take much. Normally, you don't have to put any tension back on that fence again. So just understand and know, most times you may not have to. Once in a great while, you may need to. So, I'm trying to think of what else.
I would check the fields with all the wind. You do want to check your fields and make sure that there's no debris in the fields for the horses and their hooves and things like that. It's another good time to kind of go out and check. And I would check your fence lines, the grassy areas. Make sure that you know your area, because with the electric fence you can have the grass grow up. It'll stop the electricity from running through.
And to be sure that there's nothing
or snow
under the fence lines that's coming up and touching the electric fences. And one thing that we talk about too is that if you haven't done this, it's just a good thing to do, is that your underground burial cable that for electric fencing, when you take it to your first post to make your connection, take your underground burial wire all the way to the top of your first rail of your post, and then jump your way down to the rails, because if snow or grass or something hits that bottom rail, it'll short out the bottom rail, but the rest of the rails will still stay hot. So just be sure, in case something does hit that bottom rail, you still have electric above to keep the horses where they need to be. I'm trying to think of some other. I know mud is kind of a big thing right now too in the pastures.
Yes.
If you don't have a sacrifice paddock or something to put your horses in, can be a lot of mud. And actually, we had a picture of a horse that was running into the fencing. Actually, we have a video of it that we put up on Facebook just not too long ago, of a horse that did slide right into the fencing. And I can't remember. I don't know if there. I thought that there was not grass there. So if you
it was mud. It was mud.
Okay,
and light
that's
hoof,
what I thought.
Or the light hoof would work in that area.
Yeah.
And that's where you have a lot of calls at this time of the year for
it's
the
a
light
mud
hoof,
management system, right? You could use light hoof if you wanted to for mud management, which will help. And then additionally, the horse, it was flex fence. They ran right into the flex fence and bounced right off, and the fence was just fine. So another good tip about, I guess, flex fence. But yes, mud management is a big thing this time of the year too. So there are things to solve it. You don't have to do anything with your ground to level. It's an easy system to use. You take your mud management system, which is kind of like a grid, so to speak, and stake that out on your ground where your mud is, and then you would take a real fine gravel, and put that over the top of the mud management grid. And once that's established, you can pull the stakes out that have held the grid in place, and you're on your way. So it's a good system.
It's just like so, I think, exciting to see how things have changed since we were younger. Like you had horses when you were little, and then, of course, in our day and age, we had them too. You were the mom and had them with us. And, we had the wood fences. We had no mud management. And to think that we have these things that make our life so easy that, we are able to go out and ride more, able to get out,
Time to do what we want to do with
Yeah.
our horses. Exactly.
Yeah.
Very much so. Another thing too that I think people should look at are their gates after the weather. Be sure that your gates are closing tightly. Whether or not depends on what kind of a latch system that you have for your gates, but you want to be sure that your latches are closing tight so that there's not a gap between your latch post and your gate. The further distance you have between your gate and your post, it's not good, because if a horse does push his head through in between that gate and pulls back, it could be really a horrible injury, irreversible damage, and not good whatsoever. So you want to be sure that your spacing between your gate and your gate post is minimal. And also have a secure latch on your posts. We just are big about trying to be safer alternatives, and you just want to be sure that you keep those gates latched properly. So sometimes posts move a little bit because of the weather, the frost and the thaw. We hope that they don't move too much. If you've put your bracing in properly or your posts in properly, it shouldn't move too much. But just be sure you check the maintenance on your gates too. It's so important with the horses.
Can you talk about the backbone of the fence and why that's so important?
So we've always said that your posts are the backbone of your fencing. If you don't have your posts there to hold your rails securely, you have no fence, basically. So it's most important that you always have your posts set properly too, so that you have either 8, 10, or 12-foot post spacing with horses. We don't go any further, because what happens is that the further apart the posts are, the more the horses can push apart between the rails. It's easier for them to stick a leg through, put a head through, and shove themselves through to the other side. We don't want that either. So having the posts closer together makes more security and stability between your rails, which is much better. So in small pastures, 8 foot, high traffic areas, 8 foot, medium-sized pastures or paddocks, 10 foot, 12 foot for larger pastures is fine. Proper posting is important, because if you don't use the right size post, and also additionally, they need to be treated so that they're long lasting. The length of the post is important to have enough into the ground. In our northern states, we want to be 3 foot into the ground with our line posts, and further for our corner posts. And then in the southern states, at least 2.5 feet. So that's important to have the right length of post, because you want at least a 54 to 56 inch post above the ground for your horses. If you have minis and ponies, smaller horses, then it's fine if you want to go with a shorter post and you're thinking you're saving a little bit of money, you can. But are you ever going to get a bigger horse someday?
Yeah, pre-planning.
Got that fence in, you've got that shorter post. What are you going to do if you get a taller horse?
Or board. Maybe you have to think about boarding at some point,
Right. So think about those things. So is there anything else you wanted to say about the
corner
backbone?
bracing, and how important maybe that is for people to understand why we do the brace system that we recommend?
So with tensioned fencing, with our flex fence, then what we do is we use a down post and a diagonal brace. And the most important part about that is that it holds that corner post where it needs to be with the amount of tension that's pulled on it when you pull the tension onto the flex fencing. And if it's not braced properly, and it's not difficult to do, it's not really even time consuming once you understand how to do the bracing. Your posts that go down into the ground, as your down post and your diagonal posts are concreted, and in our installation instructions we have all of the dimensions listed there. It will hold your fence properly. If you don't do that and you cut corners, it's just like anything you cut corners on. I've always said this: if you cut corners when you're, remodeling your home, later on you're going to see it.
Right.
If you cut corners on, anything you do, I don't care what it is you decide to do, you're going to see that later on down the road and say, why did I do that? So with your posts, don't cut corners. Make sure that they're braced properly, and they'll hold the tension on your fence, and you should never have to touch it again. We have fences that, the only fence actually, with a lifetime warranty on the market, and your rail is going to last a long time. It has a lifetime warranty. Why not put your posts in, never touch them again? So do it once, do it right, and be done with it. And then you have more time to go ride and have fun with your horses. So I'm kind of thinking back to springtime again. I'm trying to think if there's anything else with the fencing. You always want to check your waters, of course, that are out in pasture. If you do have sheds, you want to check your sheds just to be sure that there aren't any sharp edges or anything that's happened through the wintertime. Just do a good check with that. Another thing, too, I think that's good is, it sounds kind of funny, but you might want to just walk your pasture to be sure that you don't have any holes in the pasture. Some things can happen through the wintertime that you can have little animals and things like that that kind of burrow or dig holes. You want to be sure that those holes are filled in. And always, if you use electric, you're going to save on the investment of your fencing no matter what kind of fencing it is. They won't touch it. They just respect it. It's just like the pecking order with horses.
So say I don't have anything planned yet, but I just bought my first piece of property and it's bare land. There's no split rail up. There's nothing, but I'm going to bring horses home. What do we have here that you could help me with?
So we have basically any kind of fencing that you'd be interested. First, we'd talk to you about what kind of horses you have, what your idea is of how you see your farm looking, and what you want to accomplish. I know that's a funny question because don't we all want to keep our horses in a pasture? But some people will say, well, I want a riding area. I want to have minis over here and I want to have my horses over here. Eventually, I want to do this or this or this. So we ask everybody what it is that they want. Next thing we talk about is what are your horses? What have your horses been in? What kind of fencing have they been in? And then what kind of fencing are you thinking that you want to put your horses in? And then we also talk about the height of your horses. We'd like to know how tall they are. Or do you think you're going to have mares and foals down the road? Any stallions? We need to know any of those things. We've even talked to people, of course, that have all kinds of horses that are like Mustangs, horses that are much more energy. We need to know all of those different types of things. And then we can start to talk about which fencing do you feel fits your horse's particular needs for your farm. Every farm is different. And even though sometimes your friends may have a certain kind of fencing or your instructor may have a certain kind of, or your vet, if your horses are different than theirs, it's good to talk about what particular needs you need for your horses themselves in your farm, because every farm is so faceted. May have all warm bloods, great big tall horses, or thoroughbreds, or quarter horses, or ponies, whatever the case may be. But we have a fence to fit every need, and we also discuss rail spacing, whether it's electric, whether it's our flex fence, whether it's coated wire. I'm trying to think, woven wire, whatever it is that you have, especially the railed fences. You don't want any more than 9 to 11 inches in between your rails for horses. If it's ponies or smaller, we'll talk about a closer post spacing. So we want to talk to you about how many rails you need as well. Some people will say, I only want 3 rails. But when we see the height of their horses and the spaces in between, to have safer alternatives, to not have to go back and have a horse get loose, have something happen, we may discuss putting some combination fencing in order to make those spaces a little closer.
Yeah, that combination fencing is so nice for people. If they, you want something like the 5 1/4, and I mean 5 1/4 is absolutely beautiful. It just doesn't work for some people, and to be able to have the option to do combination, or they say they would like 3 rail, and in between that we can put some of our tape products for electric, and you get that electric on there as well, which is. Is good for the horses to, respect the boundaries.
Right. And if you want to, you can put your 4-rail system of your 5 1/4 inch, your widest rail up, and dress up the front of your farm if you want to. And then towards the back sides, or if you have natural boundary lines, you can use coated wire. So, again, though, keep in mind that you don't want your spaces to be any more than 9 to 11 inches. So some people will say, I only want so many rails of the coated wire. But let's think about the safety of your horse again, so that you don't have to come back and do it twice. We'll just do it once and have it done and have it be as safe as it can be. So we'll discuss the height of your fence and the number of rails that are going to work for that 9 to 11 inches. If they're larger horses, regular size horses, if they're smaller, we may need to add another rail.
We also have a brand new farm and barn guide coming out.
We do.
To
We
give
do.
tips and
Yes,
tricks and
we
to help you with this,
do.
to break it down for you, to look at it and look at your property. And our customer service here, if you call in and speak to anybody here, they will, I mean, this is what they're here. They have the knowledge and they're truly concerned about what your needs are. And each horse farm is different, as we've talked about.
Most of our people own horses.
Yes.
And, most of our people will talk to you about their own horse situations or things that they've gone through too. And then our other people hear all the time about what goes on at the horse farms, and then we have our horses right here on the property too. So, and if you get the farm and barn planning guide on the inside of the fencing part, Ida's pictures on the
That's right.
in the second page, so you'll get to see Ida. And here's Ida today, our granddaughter Ida. So
Ida, who are you holding?
Oh, I was with Baxter, wasn't
yeah.
I? Yeah, Baxter.
Yep.
So
One
So
of our
your
horses
favorite
here on the
one?
farm. So
I like Grayson.
Grayson's your favorite.
Yeah,
Like Anna.
yeah,
we'll have
like
to get
Anna.
Grayson in some of our advertising material, though. So, but
Yeah. But I think overall, the barn guide is really good because when you're planning such a big project, sometimes you overlook the little things. And I think, either one of you guys would say the same thing as well.
gives you some tips and ideas to start thinking about what you need, and then maybe starts to, you start to get an idea as to what your prices will be. You can start to estimate that, and then we can help you from there. Or you can, go ahead if you want to and take a look at further things from our website and see what would work for you. So
I think we, as a company, help to break that down for people to make it a simple process. It can be like so overwhelming. You're thinking about, building a barn, building the stalls, building the fence.
Stephanie found that out in our office. My
Yes.
goodness, one of our girls here,
Yep.
purchased a farm, and she has always worked with the customers. And then when it came down to her own, it was like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And she knew what to do,
Yeah.
but it was just overwhelming. So,
Yeah, and I do think that we helped to break that down for people, and you're going to be going through that at some point
Yes.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
soon we're going to have a new barn, and we can't wait to tell everybody about it.
Yeah.
Talk about what we decide to do and our kind of little tips and tricks and things that we want to put out there so everybody can see and get some ideas. But yes, we can't wait to build another barn again.
Because we'll have decisions to make.
Yes, we will.
It's a big project to take on, even for us. And you've done it before, but when you get a new property, it's a whole new world.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And we ourselves within our own family have gone back and forth on color even. So we understand that people can't decide which color they want their fence to be.
Yeah.
We get that.
Yeah.
So we know.
What's your favorite color?
So, well, I kind of like them all. It depends. It depends because I think white makes a real statement. I think the white fencing is just that traditional look. I think the black is a classic look. It's elegant. I kind of bring this up that the fences used to be all white in Kentucky, and I'm not saying that they're all black now, but many are black, and it looks so classic and beautiful with the green grass. And then when you do the barn, or with the brown, I'm sorry, not the barn, the brown. I'm thinking about the barn now.
Yeah.
The brown, it just looks very rustic and blends in. I mean, it has a nice, I think it just, each one has its place. And I think depending upon what color your barn is, or your home, whatever you want to make it, you can just choose that color, and it just looks beautiful. I don't know. They're all pretty. What about you guys? What colors do you like?
Well, I did hear recently one of our customers did, I think it was, do you remember, Trevor? Were you there? Were you here? We had a customer who ordered a rail color. I think it was black with white.
Coated wire, maybe? Or
No, it wasn't coated wire. It was like a black rail with white hardware, or white rail with black hardware. I think it was white rail with black hardware. And
that would be.
we had
that would be
everybody
pretty
in the
cool.
company, asking,
yeah.
like the warehouse, before they shipped it out, are
Oh,
you
my.
sure? And recalling the customer, and they definitely, that's what they wanted.
The white rail with black hardware would give you that look of the white with the wrought iron on
Yes.
the garages, like the carriage house look.
Yeah.
Oh my, that's a new one.
Huh.
How about that? That's
Yeah.
pretty cool. Well, there you go. Wow, now you got me thinking. That's pretty neat. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
and there was recently a celebrity who was pictured with FlexRail. That was kind of a cool thing. So
there was.
Yeah, we can't mention things we're not allowed to, but yeah, we
can't mention the magazine it was in
Nope.
or anything. Okay, so I say no more, but anyway, I'll just mention that. There are people out there that are celebrities that you can see in magazines what they are with our Flex Fence. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Spring of, what is it? February of 2019. You might check out some magazines and see,
what's out there.
That's
Are we
right.
allowed to say like what color the fence was?
The fence was black.
Oh, so the celebrities are going for black.
There you
Classic
go.
look.
There you have it. So, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we could talk about or cover. Let's see. We've talked about posting and gates and gate latches and the waters.
I do think it's a good time just to even go through the barn, the stalls. I don't know if we mentioned. Because it's warmer out. You can get out there and it's not as cold.
Yep. One thing I talked about is kind of interesting that a lot of people don't talk about it, but you don't want to rub your hands just across your board or your wood in your stalls with a bare hand. But if you have a glove on and you rub your hand across it and you feel some splintering, you might want to check that out because we've had a lot of horses that we've heard about that get splinters. I don't know how they do it or what happens, but sometimes they get splinters in their stalls. So, take a little bit of time and, go around and feel the boards or whatever. If they're splintering, you can just take that and sand it down or whatever. And check out the stalls to be sure that there's no sharp edges, nothing that they could get hurt with or caught on. We know sometimes that the different feeders, horses can be really rough on their feeders, so check those out and make sure that if there's anything sharp, it's a good time to change the feeders out. We don't think about it too often because we're just daily in there. We throw the grain and the hay in or whatever we do, but it just takes that one time, and one vet bill can be more expensive than one repair.
Yeah.
And how we feel so bad when our horses get hurt. Just terrible. It makes us feel sick inside. And then having to have to take care of them through that is just, you feel so bad. So anyway, checking things is, an ounce of, what is it? An ounce of, however they say that. I don't know. Just, it's easy to go ahead and, check it first rather than have the injury later on. So. Somebody will come up with that and tell me what it is later on. So we'll talk about that later. Sorry.
Ounce of prevention is
I don't know, something like that.
that.
I know, exactly. I know. So
as far as like the inside of your barn and, as we're getting into like warmer weather, is there we have the wheelbarrow that makes everything a lot more easy and more
we
functional.
have an electric wheelbarrow that is just really the cat's meow. That's all I can say. Because I wasn't really, thinking that it was like, I'm thinking, what's this wheelbarrow? Is it really all that and then some? Oh my goodness, that electric wheelbarrow is awesome. It's just kind of like it has like a turn handle. You just kind of turn the handle almost like like a motorcycle would be almost.
Yep.
And the wheelbarrow moves forward. And for anybody, if you need help moving things, you don't want to have to do all the lifting with your back, whatever. It doesn't matter what your age is. You can pile all kinds of things into this wheelbarrow and just turn the handle, and it's easy. It steers with like just your fingertips. So inside the barn, moving things around, mucking stalls, carrying grain from your car to the barn, hay from one part of the barn to outside or whatever it is. I mean, I can think of so many things, and you can actually even use it for your gardening, whatever the case may be. The electric wheelbarrow is great for that. So I would say if you haven't had a chance to hear or you haven't heard about that or to look at it, it's on our website and also on Facebook, I believe. We have some videos.
We have a video. Your sister was on the video.
Yeah.
She
in the wintertime,
Lucas
even
went out and did
snow.
it. Yeah.
I mean, it's a good time saver. That's
And
good,
it's
Ida.
also great for like even your kids, just to give them something to do, because they like to often help out, and they can't have the excuse of, oh, it's too heavy, because it literally does the work for you.
Yeah, it really does. And it's as soon as you let go of the handle, it stops. It's not like something that's going to take off and go and you can't stop it. It's so easy. So, yep. Trying to think of what else, Ida. That's a good idea.
What about your spring cleaning tips for a clean barn, as far as like keeping your fencing clean?
There yet?
You would say keep up with it. You just every time you're out in the barn, you're always.
I like to always get into it. I've got all these cobwebbers and things like that I like to keep up with. But
that's probably more a spring thing. But you are all the time. We
cobwebbing.
When we first got our barn on Ram Road. You were so excited about it. It had the dirt aisleway.
Yeah.
We had to rake it back and forth with this little rake. It had to have the marks in it before we were done with
design.
We had to design. And it was really pretty. It actually,
guys.
but every day we did that. That was morning chores and evening chores. It got raked like that.
Everybody knew that the aisleway had been raked, and then we went from that to a rough concrete aisleway, which was so nice. But I mean, you can just keep your aisleways clean. Make sure that you don't have things sitting in the aisleway that your horses could run into as you're taking them in and out. If your doors are not opening properly on your stalls, you can get new door hardware. You can get the track and trolleys. We have a one-touch system that's so simple. You can just push the track with basically one hand. You can hold your horse and operate the door so easily with one hand. I know that it's not always something that we, do every year, but when that time comes when you're like, I'm tired of this, I really want to, switch some things up. We have stall hardware that you can purchase separately, or maybe you even want to just put in a whole new stall front. Maybe you need new partitions. We have beautiful stalls to look at, gorgeous, between kit stalls that are just very simple stalls all the way to designer stalls and custom, whatever it is that you need. I mean, basically, if anything for your farm, inside or out. So we'd be happy to give you ideas. We work with so many people, large facilities, 4-H, children, small facilities. It doesn't matter how large or how small, but there's always a solution. And boy, we've been doing this for over 30 years now, so we have some pretty good ideas from a lot of people.
Existing barns, I will say there are some that we've had that are
old. Cattle parlors and all kinds of things that we've done
old-fashioned barns that we've had to custom, fit into. We can do anything from a freestanding. We've got portables all the way
open
to
span barns
custom.
to pole barn buildings to whatever it is that you need. But most of all, we just want to tell you too. We are horse people. And we want to help. We'd love to take time and talk to you about your ideas. We're not here just to say, hey, we've got this product or you have to purchase this, but we'd love to give you ideas to help you because we've done it for so long. And our whole reasoning for going into the business was, to be here, to reach out to people, to help them. We all know that it seems like horse people are so it's so neat to see them come together and work together. It's a common camaraderie that we have together, and that bond is so great. And when you're dealing with horses, we get so passionate, excited about them. We want to try to have ideas to solve the problems. And are we 100% all the time? No. Is everything 100% foolproof with horses? I've always said there is nothing 100% foolproof with horses, but we will help to find the best solution that we can and help to give you ideas that will probably be better, or maybe, hopefully, try to give you some ideas that you haven't heard before. Just like those brackets. Now that's in my head. The color of the fencing with the opposite color of the bracket. That's pretty cool.
What I heard was it came from an idea of one of your favorite celebrities. That
really?
I heard.
I know.
From,
I know who it is.
Yeah.
Who? Oh,
that did that at their
I
farm.
I wish I could talk to them about that. That would be so wonderful.
Which is kind of cool. But yeah.
That's fun. That's exciting to hear. I like that. So, neat idea.
Well, we will be taking a short break, and when we get back, we will go into our next segment, Canter Banter.
Do you love horses and live the equestrian lifestyle? Be sure to check out our brand new blog at www.yourhorsefarm.com, We publish 3 posts per week and feature a free printable equine checklist every month. YourHorseFarm.com is a great equine online resource, so be sure to share with all the horse lovers in your life. And remember, laugh much and ride often. Our next segment, Canter Banter, is brought to you by RAMM Horse Fencing and Stalls, the one-stop shop for your horse farm. RAMM is family-owned and operated and has been in business for over 30 years. We welcome you to call in and speak with an expert about your next project today at 866-653-8984. Again, that's 866-653-8984.
And we're back. So this topic of Canter Banter is a funny story that happened to me, and my mom was there when it happened. It's something that I think has happened to a lot of people, but it is funny to talk about and makes us more real. So, Mom, if you want to.
So, I don't know how long ago it was, some time ago, we were wanting to get a horse, and we wanted to be sure that this horse would work for my husband and my daughter both. And so we had heard about this neat leopard Appaloosa, and I think Kristen had
I
really
love leopard Appaloosas.
Yeah,
I wanted, a leopard Appaloosa so bad.
because you had a leopard Appaloosa that you had ridden when you had ridden quite some time, like when we were riding in Michigan and so forth, and you loved that horse. His name was Wabash, and she just loved Wabash.
And he was a fox hunter.
Yes,
so
he
we
was.
did a lot of fox hunting, and
Yes.
he was awesome.
So we had heard about a leopard Appaloosa, and we went to go look at this horse, and there was the man that was there that owned the horse was there and took this horse, and he was on a busy highway. I mean, busy highway.
Yeah.
And he got on the horse and rode all
And
around.
there was no fence.
No fencing
Open.
whatsoever.
He had fencing for his areas, but this was where we were riding was open to the highway.
Mm-hmm. And so he got on and rode right beside the highway, and this horse, this little leopard Appaloosa, just trucked right along. Didn't miss a beat, just good as could be. And as we're watching him, we're thinking, boy, this is a cool horse. We really liked him. We thought he was just great. So I think you said to me, if you remember, well, why don't you ride first and then I'll ride? I think,
yes.
Okay. So I got on and rode. And then I said, Kristen, I think you need to get on. And, when you're purchasing horses, you want to be sure everybody's happy, whoever is going to ride that horse and so forth. So what you have to understand is that we had ridden English for a long time. And I can't remember, Kristen, did you ride?
I was in my 30s, and it was like I was in my teens the last time I had ridden in a Western saddle.
Okay. And this man had this horse, I say dressed in a Western saddle.
Right. And that's, and I'm short. I'm only 5 foot tall. So it's a big men's Western saddle.
Yes, a big men's Western saddle.
Yeah, so my legs don't even fit into the stirrups or anything.
So we got Kristen on the horse, and she was riding around. I was talking to the gentleman who was selling the horse about how nice he was, and I think Kristen was really happy with him. I think she was just like, this is the one.
I
so to
was
speak.
because I had a time where I was kind of nervous to ride in front of people. I didn't even really want to walk into a room with a group of people. It kind of made me nervous, and I've gotten over that now.
Yeah.
But that was, so even getting on the horse was enough for me to even think, could this be something for us, and how good is he going to be? And he was just wonderful. He was so sweet, and we fell in love with him.
Okay. So our what we're coming to with our Canter Banter then is that we did have a wardrobe malfunction. And so when you get off of an English saddle, you slide your leg over, and you lean onto the saddle, so to speak, and you slide down. You slide down.
Yeah.
Okay. So Kristen, being kind of still in that habit of leaning over, like flipping her leg over, leaning over and sliding down.
Not having a place to put my foot.
Right.
Because it was the big man's saddle.
So we've got the big man's saddle with the big horn, and she leaned over, and I'm looking at her, and she's like hanging on the side of the horse, and her arms and legs are kind of flailing, and I'm like, what is going on? And she's like, I'm caught. Well, her undergarments, so to speak, I'm trying to be, got caught onto the horn.
My underwire from my bra got caught over the horn.
She's going to say it. I'm not going to say it because I'm trying to be discreet here, everyone. So anyway, she was stuck. And she's hanging on the side of the horse, and the horse is just standing there. And I'm like, oh, my gosh. And the man that was there is like, like this. I went over to her once I realized what was going on, and I like lunged downward, grabbed her legs, pushed up, and the man on the other side is trying to flip her.
I did it. He was trying to push me off. I still don't think he knew at the time what was happening.
He was like, and
What's going
I
on?
am grabbing her, heave-hoing her up in the air, and she is like trying to get herself off.
Yeah.
So when she flipped herself off of the horn, her clothing off of the horn then, and slid down, I about laid down on the ground, started dying laughing. I was like, like this, just like laughing so hard. I was bent over, ready to just lay on the ground, and she was like trying to repair herself, in front, and the man just walked away. He couldn't even look. He could not look.
Right.
And so I can't remember if you were laughing. I was laughing so hard. I can't remember. I mean, it was hilarious because I just couldn't even stand up straight. The funny part, the best part of the whole thing was, the horse never moved. The horse never moved, and we knew that was the horse we needed to purchase. Yeah. We still have the horse today. We named him Hootie because we kind of thought about how can we name him. We couldn't call him Hooters, so we called him Hootie. Hence Hootie's name. So everybody knows he got the name Hootie. So that's our Canter Banter.
And I'm only comfortable telling this story because I've heard so many other people say that happened to me too. And I'm like, thank goodness, because of all people to have this happen to, I was so embarrassed about everything at the time. And it was, it taught me it's like, it's okay. Everybody goes through something. Everybody has something that happens to them, and you move on. And out of that, we got a really great little horse.
We did. I'll just tell you one other real quick one too, is that I rode with a woman that was she was such a great woman to ride with, and we had our helmets on, and we had driven to go ride together, and it was so good. She had her helmet on, and she was like, my head hurts so bad. And after riding for like 3 hours, she took her helmet off, and she actually had a curler in her hair still, and she had her helmet pressing down on the curler with her hair. She had short hair, but she had the poof in the back, and her curler was in her hair still, and we laughed so hard. So wardrobe problems, I know you all have them. We'd love to hear if you've had a particular wardrobe problem. Please, we'd love to hear about it.
Send those in.
Let us know, because we know it happens, guys. We know it happens. So that's our Canter Banter of the day.
Well, we hope you enjoyed listening to our podcast and encourage you to share with all of your equestrian family and friends. You can tune into the Late Night Riders podcast show every Friday night. Each episode will be uploaded exclusively on YouTube, where you can subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with our latest shows. Do you have a topic you'd like us to discuss? We'd love to hear from you. You may email us at podcast@rammfence.com, or feel free to leave a comment below, or wardrobe problem.
There you go.
Thank you again for listening.
Bye.